How well do you know your margin? Because I've worked with some businesses, some of which turn 5 million plus in turnover, and the only time of year when they actually understand their margin is when their accountant finally gets round to adding up the numbers and giving them a P&L, normally about 6 months after the previous year. It's just not good enough. Understanding your margin is really important on a day-to-day basis. So you may be familiar with the idea that there's two levels of margin. There's the gross margin, which is essentially how much you sell the product for less what the product actually cost you to either make or to buy and to then sell on. And then net margin is when you then factor in all of the fixed costs of the business, so the rent, the rates, the payroll. So understanding your margin at both levels is really important because it educates your pricing, but it's also important to know whether you're making money as the game is progressing as opposed to long after the game has finished. So understanding margin is the first thing. But there's two different ways I want you to look at margin. I was with a client recently that is a quantity surveyor, and we talked about margin in two ways. We talked about pricing margin. So pricing margin is the margin that you set when you quote the customer or when you offer a product to the customer at a certain price. You should have in your head a very clear understanding of how much margin that means. Now, for some businesses, that means you have to estimate, you have to make certain assumptions and estimates in your quotation about how the product is going to be manufactured or how efficiently you can do it. But the pricing margin is the responsibility of whoever sold the product or service to the customer. So it's a sales function, and it's something that salespeople should be monitored on. But then there's another margin. There's then what I like to refer to as the efficiency margin. So the efficiency margin is whether the people producing the product or service for the customer can beat the quotation that was made. So whether they can squeeze more margin out. And measuring both of these gives you a really good grip on what happens in your business and what the economics of your business are.